Our 10th anniversary was supposed to be candlelight, champagne, the whole forever package. Instead, I got my wife across from me at the fanciest steakhouse in town, swirling her wine like she was auditioning for a perfume commercial, smirking the way she always does right before she says something poisonous. The waiter barely walked away before she leaned forward, eyes sharp, voice dipped just low enough for only me to hear. That was it. No build-up, no warning, just a grenade tossed right onto the tablecloth between us. I set down my fork, wiped my mouth with the napkin, and stared at her like she'd just announced she'd joined the circus. My brain screamed, "Don't react. Don't give her the satisfaction." Out loud, I only said one word: perfect. She blinked, waiting for the explosion. None came, just me chewing calmly on a piece of medium-rare ribeye while her smirk faltered. And inside my skull? Oh, the fireworks were deafening. See, I'd already suspected. The late nights at yoga. The phone flipped face down every time I walked by. The perfume in the car, that sure as hell wasn't hers. But hearing her finally say it, out loud with that smug, cruel little smirk, was like flipping a switch I didn't know I had. That was the night I stopped being the good guy. She thought she'd won something, tossing that little line at me. She thought I'd stammer, maybe beg, maybe shout and storm out so she could play the victim with her gaggle of wine-drunk friends. But instead, I smiled. Calm. Colder than I'd ever been. And I swear, I saw her face twitch, just for a second, like she realized she'd just poked something better left alone. The rest of dinner? Silence. She scrolled her phone under the table, giggling at texts she thought I didn't notice. I let her. I drank my wine, tipped the waiter $50, and drove us home without a single word. And while she hopped in the shower, humming like a guilty teenager, I slipped into my office and opened my laptop. Here's the thing about being underestimated your whole damn marriage. She forgot who pays the bills, who set up the accounts, who signed every mortgage paper, every car loan, every insurance document. She thought I was boring, predictable. She thought I was too weak to ever act. She was about to learn just how wrong she was. The first breadcrumb came from the gym membership receipts. She hates sweating, won't even walk the dog when it's above 75 degrees. Yet suddenly she's training 3 times a week. And funny enough, her trainer is some 30-year-old meathead with a tribal tattoo running down his arm and a smile full of veneers. So I did what any paranoid, boring husband would do. I checked the mileage on her car. It didn't add up. The gym's 10 miles away. She was driving 30, 40, sometimes 50 on those nights. Where was she going? I already knew the answer. But suspicion is just a rumor until you've got proof. So I bought a camera, not some high-tech spy gadget, just a basic Wi-Fi model off Amazon, installed it in the living room while she was out with her friends, angled it right toward the front door where anyone walking in would be on display. And 3 days later, sitting at work on my lunch break, I opened the app. There she was, walking in, laughing, and behind her, Tribal Tattoo himself, carrying a bottle of wine like he owned the place. My hand shook so hard I almost dropped my phone. I replayed the footage 3 times. Not because I didn't believe it, but because my brain kept stalling out like an old car engine. There she was, my wife, my better half, waltzing through our front door with her gym trainer like he was carrying her bridal bouquet. She even kicked off her heels in that same sloppy way she always did, like nothing was sacred in the house we built together. And him? Tribal Tattoo strutted in like he owned the place, a bottle of cheap Merlot in one hand, his other hand already on the small of her back. The part that got me wasn't the kiss, though. Oh, no. It wasn't even the way she pushed him onto my couch, the same one I'd nearly thrown my back out lugging through the doorway years ago. It was her laugh. That high, cruel, gossip girl laugh she usually reserved for mocking my taste in shoes or the way I pronounce quinoa. Except this time, it wasn't aimed at me. It was meant for him. That was the moment the switch flipped. You want to know the beautiful thing about cameras? They don't blink. They don't forget. They don't misremember the way cheaters love to. And me? I didn't scream. I didn't storm into the house like some reality TV husband ready to throw punches. That's what she expected. That's what he expected. Instead, I sat at my desk, earbuds in, and hit record. Downloaded the footage, backed it up 3 different ways: USB drive, cloud storage, even emailed it to myself. I wasn't going to be the guy holding only one card at the poker table. When she texted me later that night, long yoga class, going to bed early, I nearly laughed myself into a stroke. The next morning, I tested the waters. Sleep well? I asked casually over breakfast, watching her sprinkle sugar into her coffee like nothing in the world could ever go wrong. She smiled, that same glossy magazine smile. Like a baby. And I smiled back. So did he, I thought, chewing on toast that suddenly tasted like victory. It became a game. Every little lie, every flimsy excuse, I cataloged it. I wasn't just her husband anymore. I was her historian, her archivist. Every receipt, every credit card charge, every late-night whisper on the phone when she thought I was asleep. I filed it all away like chapters in a book only I'd get to write the ending for. But here's the thing. Discovering betrayal doesn't break you all at once. It erodes you. It sands you down grain by grain until you realize there's nothing left of the man you used to be. At work, I caught myself staring blankly at spreadsheets, imagining her with him. In the grocery store, I stood frozen in the cereal aisle, wondering if she laughed at his stupid jokes the way she used to at mine. And then there was the paranoia. Every time my phone buzzed, I thought it was her, slipping up, confessing by accident. Every time she smiled at me across the dinner table, I wondered if she was picturing him. That's when I started talking to myself. Not out loud, God forbid my coworkers catch me muttering like some lunatic, but in my head, a constant running commentary of sarcasm and bitterness. Oh, look, she bought a new dress. Bet he's going to enjoy that more than I will. Another late yoga session? Sure. Stretching her morals must take hours. Don't forget to lock the front door, honey. Wouldn't want strangers walking in. Just the one you already let in, right? I wasn't breaking. I was hardening. And she didn't notice a damn thing. The beauty of being underestimated is that no one sees you coming. She still thought of me as the boring, dependable husband, the guy who'd mow the lawn on Sundays, fold laundry while half-watching football, kiss her cheek goodnight without ever suspecting. Meanwhile, I was quietly building an arsenal. Bank statements, copied, passwords, saved, joint accounts, monitored down to the penny. By the time she realized I wasn't her doormat anymore, I'd already pulled the rug out from under her. The real test came 2 weeks later. She walked in the door one evening, cheeks flushed, hair a little too messy to be from yoga. Dropped her bag on the counter and gave me that smug look she thought passed for innocence. Traffic was hell, she sighed. Oh yeah? I said, keeping my voice as flat as a heart monitor in a morgue. Which highway? Her eyes flicked sideways, just a flash, but enough. I-90. Bingo. That road had been under construction for a month. Everyone in town knew it. I smiled into my coffee cup, hiding the grin that wanted to split my face. She was sloppy, careless, arrogant, and every word out of her mouth was another nail in her own coffin. That night, while she snored beside me, I scrolled through the footage again. Her, laughing. Him, shirtless, wandering into my kitchen to drink my whiskey. And that's when I whispered to myself, quiet enough not to wake her. You're both about to find out what it's like to lose everything. Morning came with the usual pretense. My wife floated into the kitchen, still carrying that smug aura as if nothing had happened, as if the little worlds she was building with her lover weren't crumbling somewhere behind my eyes. I poured my coffee, watching her fiddle with the cream like a nervous schoolgirl. So, gym today? I asked casually, raising an eyebrow. Yes. Well, maybe a little later, she said, her voice syrupy. I just want to relax first. Translation: she was planning another rendezvous, and I already knew it. I spent that day in my office, but not buried in spreadsheets like I pretended. No, I was assembling my arsenal. Every joint account, every shared card, every auto-pay subscription, mapped. Every friend who whispered behind my back, every colleague she leaned on for gossip, logged. By lunch, I had drafted a schedule, a timeline, and a list of people who could be manipulated into helping me without knowing it. And most importantly, my lawyer. I had already explained everything to him with precise detail, calmly and sarcastically. Yes, she's cheating, I said. Yes, I have proof. And yes, I want everything. House, accounts, everything down to the last cent. Don't forget to let her keep the cat, though. It's not like she deserves more. The first move was subtle. I didn't yell, I didn't threaten. I sent an email to the bank, not flagged as unusual, nothing suspicious, just enough to freeze her access. I watched the transactions fail on her side over the weekend. That's when panic set in. Monday morning, I walked past her like nothing had changed. She tapped her card at Starbucks, looked at me over the counter, and that confident little smirk faded into the ghost of terror. Really? That's odd, she muttered, like she thought she was imagining it. I leaned casually against the counter. Funny, I said. Maybe you should call the bank? Her panic fed me, and I loved it. The next phase involved her lover, the gym guy, the tribal tattoo. He was cocky, sure of himself, thinking he was untouchable. I didn't need guns, knives, or cinematic violence. I needed leverage. I found out everything he hated, his vanity, his reputation, the delicate image he sold to the gym clients. A few well-timed leaks, a couple of screenshots sent to colleagues, a whisper here, a hint there. Suddenly, his gym sessions were empty, his clients were texting about shady behavior, and his friends started giving him side-eye. And the best part? He had no idea it was me. Meanwhile, my wife tried to adapt. She whispered, she begged, she smiled with a practiced innocence. Maybe we should talk, she suggested one evening, leaning against the kitchen counter like a soap opera queen. I chuckled internally. Talk? I said, keeping my voice perfectly neutral. Sure, about what? Her eyes darted. I didn't mean… Right, I interrupted smoothly. About how you've been sneaking him into our house? About how you think I wouldn't notice the bank withdrawals? About how you think you're smarter than me? Her face flushed. She knew I had the proof. She didn't know the half of it. The fun part? Watching them both crumble at the same time. I started small, every petty humiliation, a stolen dinner here, a blocked account there, a rumor whispered to her friends. Her social circle, her support network, began crumbling, and she didn't understand why everyone suddenly looked at her like she was a fraud. The lover. His arrogance was his undoing. Every client who noticed a discrepancy, every friend who got a forwarded screenshot, they were all unspooling his life, inch by inch, without him even knowing who was doing it. By week 2, the groundwork was set. She was terrified of her own phone, terrified of checking the mailbox. He was sweaty, paranoid, glaring at every phone notification like it could explode in his face. And me? I sat back, pretending to watch a movie, a sarcastic smile playing at my lips. And the best part? They had no idea that the storm had only just begun. That night, she came home late. The lights in the living room were off, shadows stretching across the walls. I didn't move from the couch. You're quiet tonight, she said. Her voice quivered slightly. I leaned forward, swirling my glass of scotch. I've been thinking, I said, about how some people get everything they deserve, and a little extra. Her eyes widened, that familiar pre-cliffhanger pulse. And I smiled, the kind of smile that meant, this is going to get worse, much worse. The next morning, our house felt different. Not that the walls had changed, or the furniture. No, it was her energy, The sly, overconfident aura she usually carried, now tense, jittery, as if every shadow might be watching her. She floated into the kitchen, pretending nothing was wrong, the same carefully rehearsed smile pasted across her face. "Coffee?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. She paused mid-step, like she had to calculate whether I was serious. Sure," she mumbled, sliding onto a stool. I poured 2 mugs, silently noting how her hands shook ever so slightly. That wasn't her usual nervousness. It was fear. The first tremor of a spider realizing the web has been silently cut from underneath. I'd already begun my groundwork. Accounts frozen, credit cards blocked, subtle but precise. I had called my lawyer the night before, quietly filing preliminary divorce papers without raising alarms. Nothing dramatic, nothing illegal, just enough to start cutting the ground from under her and the lover. Meanwhile, gossip was my secret weapon. She had always loved being admired, the social queen of our little suburban circle. I sent a few carefully worded anonymous tips about a certain troubled relationship to people she trusted most. Within hours, whispers started circulating. "Did you hear about her?" "I think something's wrong." Her friends started side-eyeing her, questioning her stories, doubting her like predators circling a wounded animal. And she didn't notice. Not yet. Later that day, I went out under the pretense of running errands. That's when I saw him, her lover, parked in our driveway. Yeah, bold, right? Maybe arrogance is the same thing as stupidity. I leaned on the hood of my car, sunglasses on, pretending to read a text. "You're early," I said, voice casual, almost bored. He jerked upright, jaw tightening. I raised a finger. "Don't. Just leave. Or don't. Either way, your clients at the gym might hear some interesting things about your extracurricular activities." His face went pale. That smirk, the one that made him think he could get away with anything, vanished. He hadn't considered the fact that the nice, boring husband, me, was actually paying attention. By evening, the dominoes began falling. She came home late, perfume too strong, hair tousled, pretending she'd been at a charity networking event. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. Her phone buzzed. Dozens of texts from friends she had already alienated. "Are you okay?" "We heard what happened. What's going on?" And then came the gym notifications, her lover's life unraveling quietly but visibly. Clients canceling appointments, friends questioning his character, and a few well-placed screenshots floating in group chats. She didn't understand any of it. She had no idea that the ground beneath them both was collapsing, piece by piece. The confrontation came sooner than I expected. She tried the classic move, leaning in, pouting, begging. "Maybe we can work this out." I poured a glass of scotch, taking my time. "Work what out?" I asked, voice flat. "You know, us." "I can fix it." Her eyes darted around, desperate. I smirked. "Fix it?" Funny. I don't think you can fix what's already broken. And just like that, her composure crumbled. She realized I wasn't the man she could manipulate anymore. And him? He had no idea I had already started dismantling his little world, too. That night, I watched them both squirm. She cried in front of friends she had alienated, trying to explain herself. He stared at me from across the street, furious, confused, powerless. And me? I sipped my whiskey, sarcastic commentary running in my head like a streaming ticker tape. Oh, she thought she could humiliate me at dinner. That's cute. Let's see how she likes being humiliated for real. The foundation had been shaken. The first real cracks had appeared, and I knew, deep down, that by the time this was over, there wouldn't be a single stone left standing for either of them. The night ended with her knocking on the door, trembling. I didn't answer. I just watched her through the blinds, seeing her finally realize what it meant to have no leverage, no money, no friends, no escape. And the best part? She had no idea this was just the beginning. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of her fumbling around the kitchen. You know that sound? The clink of coffee mugs, the scrape of a chair, all with that tiny tremble in her movements that only comes from fear? Yeah, that one. I sipped my coffee, calm, letting her anxiety seep into the air. I could almost taste it, like bitter chocolate on my tongue, and it was delicious. She didn't know her cards were already gone. I'd quietly moved every joint account, frozen credit cards, and ensured that even her emergency funds were inaccessible. She had money, technically, but she had no access. When she swiped her card at the corner store and the machine flashed declined, I knew the fun was officially beginning. "Oh, that's odd," she muttered, forcing a smile. "Maybe they need your ID?" I offered casually. Her face fell. She looked like a toddler who just realized the puppy she loved had chewed through the TV remote. I spent the day cataloging every move she and her lover made. I had discovered some of his debts, his lies, even a couple of unpaid fines. Nothing illegal, nothing dramatic, but enough to plant little seeds. A few anonymous emails here, some screenshots there, and suddenly his clients were questioning him. Gym attendance dropped. Instagram followers dwindled. His perfect image cracking. And she had no clue. That evening, she tried her first desperate manipulation. Sliding onto the couch, eyes wide, voice soft. "Maybe we can talk?" Really talk? I took my time pouring a scotch, savoring every second. "Talk about what?" She faltered. I don't know." I smirked. "Exactly. You don't know. And soon, neither will anyone else, because you're about to lose everything you thought you owned." By nightfall, I'd placed a few anonymous tips to her friends and colleagues. Within hours, whispers began circulating. "Did you hear about her? Something's off." Her social circle started questioning her reliability, her honesty, her charm. She was always the queen of attention. Now she was the joke. Meanwhile, her lover tried showing up at the gym, strutting as usual. A few of his clients had seen some of my little leaks. Questions started. Conversations happened without him knowing where they came from. Panic began to creep into his confident swagger. I wasn't done. I watched them both. She was trying to keep her composure, and he was already unraveling. And through it all, I kept my poker face, my sarcastic inner monologue, rolling like a film director's commentary. "Oh, look at him panic. Did you forget the husband is smarter than the lover? That's cute. Oh, she's crying to her so-called friends. Wait, they're ignoring her? Beautiful." By the end of the week, I had orchestrated the first wave of collapse. Her finances inaccessible, her social standing teetering, his reputation quietly shredded. And both of them thought they were still in control. The final touch? The locks changed overnight. I made sure she would come home one morning and realize, physically, she had no access to the life she had been taking for granted. And when she did, the look on her face, I'll never forget it. Pure, raw panic.